Hello, everyone. My name's Ione Butler, and I am the founder of Uplifting Content. And my guest today is somebody that I've known for years, actually, from all the way back in England. And so it's really nice for
Yeah,
us to be connecting today. It is the beautiful Alexandra Legouix. Alexandra, how are you, my love?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? It's morning for you, isn't
It
it?
is. It's early on a Saturday morning, but I had an early night, so it's all good.
Oh, good girl. Well, it's Friday night here for me, and it's party season, so it
That's
won't be. Tomorrow morning, I will not look as fresh as you do, that's for sure.
That's hilarious. We'll get on with this so that you can go out and have a good time. Um,
Yes.
so I like to start these interviews by asking my guests to just share a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do. Por favor.
Whew. Okay, so I'm first and foremost a sports TV presenter. I present predominantly motorsport, actually. I sort of fell into that, and I present the World Touring Car Cup for Eurosport and Fox Sports and whoever else takes it, but predominantly for Eurosport. I present a few of the rounds of the World Rally Championship. I presented the Dakar Rally, and then they're my sort of key things, and then whatever gets thrown at me. And then I also have, in the last 2 years, started doing quite a lot of yoga presenting. So I released a DVD last Christmas, and I have a second DVD coming out this Christmas.
Oh,
And then the rest is whatever comes in as and when.
yes, I know. As like an
It's a
artist.
creative thing, isn't it?
Yeah. You kind of, yeah, it can be all over the place. And
Yeah.
touching on the yoga DVD, Alex has kindly offered to give away a yoga DVD download of your previous one, I believe that was, or will that be the new?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. It would be quite nice to give away the new one, but
Yeah. We'll
yeah, I'll find
surprise you,
out.
winners.
Yeah, exactly. If people wait till after Christmas, then they can have the new one. And if they want it before, then they'll have the last year's one.
Well, yeah, we normally run the giveaways for a month, so we'll close this on January 1st. So
Yeah.
the likelihood is it will be the new one. So that's fantastic.
Okay, great.
Awesome. So
Wow.
thank you so much for reaching out to me. You'd reached out about something that happened to you in May. And
Yeah.
I just love for you to, well, the reason that I think that it's important and why you wanted to share it is because traumatic things happen to people, and there's not always the support or the information that's there to help people through that, overcoming that trauma. And so yeah, I'm really glad that you are speaking out about it. I found that speaking about stuff that I struggle with, like depression, gives people permission to open up themselves and get help, and just it just gives them permission to share. So thank you for sharing. But yeah, would you like to tell us what happened?
Yes. It's really nice. That's a sort of a good opening as well, because the reason why I'm sharing is because I've always had a sort of a very strong opinion of myself as being very solid, very brave, or really nothing affects me. I've never even been someone who's got nervous about really anything. And this year, my life completely flipped. And so it's really tested me in a big way. And I think I have realized now that the importance of sort of supporting people. So, so that's why I reached out. So what happened is in May, the end of May, I went to the Formula One at Monaco Grand Prix. I'd actually, for the last 3 months before that, I was suffering with a tropical disease of some sort. We weren't sure whether it was dengue fever or hepatitis A or something, but I got that from Mexico in March. So I got to May, and I've been really ill, really like just so exhausted. And something was telling my body I had to stop, but I'd gone out to the Grand Prix. My boyfriend was working at the track, and the morning of the actual Grand Prix day, I was so tired. So I said to my boyfriend, "You go off. I will come down later. I'm just going to have a couple of hours by the pool and just chill. I've got to stop." So I went down, lay down on the sunbed, and a good friend of mine who lives in Australia called me on WhatsApp, FaceTime. So I was holding the phone, looking at her, and we were chatting about about what I was just saying, about the fact that I needed to stop. And Emma was saying, it's funny because the universe does things that makes you stop. So clearly You just needed to take some time out. And that's why you got this disease. And I was like, yeah, I guess it was. But, you know, I've got so much coming up. I've got this thing tomorrow. I've got this next week and blah, blah, blah. And Emma was going, but you're going to be really ill if you don't listen to your body. And I was like, I know, but I just can't. Anyway, no sooner do I have that conversation, blackout. And I dropped the phone, and I woke up and it was pitch black, and I can obviously had my earpiece was still in, so I was still on the phone to Emma, and she was screaming, and I couldn't work out what was going on. I was trapped underneath something, and I couldn't push it off me at all. And I had this weird feeling that there was like a hose in the side that was spraying water all over my face. I was so disorientated. And Emma was saying, what's happened? And then I was like, I don't know. I can't get out. I can't get out from whatever's on top of me. Eventually, it was pulled off me, and I sat up, and apologies for anyone out there who can't quite cope with gory details, but I put my hand to my head, and my hand literally went through my head. It was the most bizarre sensation. And then there was just an awful lot of blood. Sorry.
No. It's a story. I'm squeamish, so it's okay.
Yeah, sorry. Emma was obviously still completely freaking out because she's watching everything. And I looked down at the phone, and I was so out of it. And I just remember, because obviously all our phones nowadays are touch screen, I couldn't put the phone down. So I was trying so hard. And I was like, Emma, I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's going on. But the phone was just covered. And I was like, you're going to have to put the phone down. And she was obviously like, no. I don't, I can't. I think you're dying. Anyway, eventually I was surrounded by a lot of people. Someone was wrapping my head, and someone was holding my hand, and everyone was very French, and I didn't really know what was going on. And eventually this gentleman beside me very calmly said, what happened is that we watched the wind pick up a parasol, which flipped the sunbed next to you, and the metal leg of the sunbed went into your head, and the parasol landed on top. And they were the first people to come over, and it was them that lifted it off, but it took two of them to actually lift the whole lot off because it was so heavy.
Oh God.
And yeah, it was ridiculous. And you can now. So I then had I got taken to hospital. They couldn't. It was so surreal. They put me into this little room, obviously, to stitch me up, but they couldn't stop the blood. And I remember saying to the nurse, the surgeon, like, am I going to be okay? Because everyone seemed to be genuinely a little bit too worried for my liking, And she was like, honestly, right now, I'm afraid we can't, and we're really struggling to stop it. So I think we're going to have to put you into surgery for a few hours and just try and work it out whether we can stop the internal bleeding. And then that was it. I was like, oh, well, there we are. I then was messaging my boyfriend saying, I think you need to tell my mum now.
Oh God.
I genuinely was like, I'm not going to come out of surgery. I don't know why. I was so adamant that was it. They wheeled me into another room. They got another surgeon, and he came in. So there were three of them, and all I can describe it is that the two women like held my head together like you would a suitcase. And he then did a lot of internal stitches, and then he was like, we don't need to, this is going to be okay, we'll be okay, we can
so
stop
there wasn't any like damage to your brain or your skull or anything like that?
No, I don't know how. And they said that, so there were 10 internal stitches and 16 external stitches, and I mean, how it didn't damage me, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear of, I don't want to, I'm jumping on all over the place. I realize that, but having learned now about more about traumatic brain injuries, it doesn't need to be half that impact to get, quite a major brain disorder. So I am so lucky.
Yeah. But then I guess at the time when all this is happening, you've got no idea of any of this and it's all incredibly scary. So so they managed to stitch you up, thank God.
Yeah.
And then
Stitched me up.
Yeah.
Then I went for scans, and then they monitored me. I had very severe concussion for a good 3 weeks, which is, I hadn't even crossed my mind that that's what I would have. And I obviously had to wear a huge plaster. And yeah, we flew home 2 days later. We went back to the hospital the next day to have it redressed. And then we flew home the next day. And my confidence went out like a light. When we got home that night, I was on a different planet, as I'm sure you can imagine. The next day was just, I just didn't know myself, completely didn't know myself. I was probably an absolute nightmare for my boyfriend to deal with. I felt like I was putting on this brave face. We went out for dinner, and I had this enormous white thing on my head, and I felt stupid and embarrassed and terrified, and I felt like everything was going to attack me. Every car that came past me, I imagined, was going to drive into me. Every sign around me was going to fall on me. It was so baffling, and that didn't leave me. And that fear and self-loathing didn't go until May, June, July, August, I think it was. But then suddenly it was like a black fog lifted. And I did a lot of help. Sorry?
I was going to say, what changed that? And so you're saying the help. What type of help did you get?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get any help at all. When we came back, I spent an awful lot of time Googling facial scars. I really needed to find someone who could understand what I was feeling. I felt so guilty for being upset by it, because I knew that everybody was saying to me, "You're so lucky, you're so lucky." At that point, I didn't feel lucky at all. I felt really unlucky. I felt like it was, all I was doing was sunbathing. That's not lucky. I understood. Obviously, I understood that it's, you're lucky to be alive and you're lucky to have not had this, that, and the other. But initially, and because of that, I felt really guilty because I had all this, but it could be so much worse. I appreciate that. And I've always had a very good sense of perspective in those sorts of things. But I just couldn't help it. I felt really sorry for myself. And that took me down lower as well. Oddly enough, it wasn't that it was 11 days, and then I had the stitches taken out. It sort of went through a journey of looking really quite disgusting then. And that's when I took the plaster off. It kept getting infected as well. And oddly enough, it wasn't about looking in the mirror and thinking, God, I look awful, because actually I don't really care about that stuff. It wasn't like an aesthetic thing. But what I did struggle to deal with was how other people reacted to me, looked at me, how some people looked a little bit disgusted. Some people looked a bit scared. You can see that people make assumptions almost immediately. I must have been in a fight, or I must be an XYZ sort of person, or, oh God, how awful, the poor girl. And most people don't have the courage to say, what's wrong with your head? What happened? Most people just look at it and then pretend it's not there, and not really, so you just get this weird, awkward
Mm-hmm.
staring thing that goes
Right.
on a lot. And so I ended up just going, you can ask me, it's fine.
Mm.
And that was the bit that I struggled to deal with most, because I didn't know I don't know. And I don't even know why I struggled with that either. But I guess it was just, that's what was making my confidence. I just felt embarrassed.
Yeah. 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 I can
Really.
understand that. So you said you started to look online for stuff.
Yeah.
And what
Looked
did you find?
online. There was nothing, like really nothing. There's I found one blog that that a lad wrote about his facial scar that he got, small one on his cheek, and that was the only personal journey that I managed to find, like a genuine, I did this 2 months ago and this is how I feel each day. And I wrote to him and said, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how nice it is to hear your words, because you're saying exactly how I feel.
Mm.
It was just so nice, but there wasn't a lot. There really wasn't. There was a wonderful charity that I did get in touch with, who I bizarrely enough had done some help. I'd gone to see them probably 18 months before my accident, called the Children's Trust. They'd asked me to present a charity do for them. So I was like, oh, maybe they will help me. Like, they only look after children. Or at that point, I thought they only help children, but they're a charity that deals with brain injuries, so why not contact them? Why not reach out to them? So I sent them an email and just said, I know this is stupid and I probably sound so selfish, because compared to all the wonderful children that you're looking after, I've got nothing to complain about, but I just need someone to say that what I'm thinking and feeling is okay, and that it's fine to not be brave and to feel insecure and all those things. They wrote back saying, come in immediately, come and have a chat. Let's come and meet some of the children. You can speak to them and see how they're coping and that stuff. So I did. I went in and I spoke to a couple of the women there that look after the children, and they just said that there's, it doesn't matter how old you are, what you look like, or what you do, or any of those things. Everyone who goes through some sort of trauma will have all these thoughts.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a facial scar. It doesn't have to be that anything, any sort of injury, but any major journey or life or death situation, you go through those same sorts of fears. So it was just really nice to speak to people who truly understood what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And then I spent the day, and I then hung out with all these incredible children this one boy, God, just really helped me put things back into perspective. He was a 9-year-old boy who had been playing in the garden, and the brick wall, just sitting there playing, and the brick wall fell on him and cut his head, but almost identical wound. But that was it, done. He can't speak. He can't.
Oh my God.
He can't. Yeah, he's 24/7 in the Children's Trust, and so is his dad. So his dad came in, has given up everything to be in there with his son. I spoke to the dad, and yeah, that really helped me. I don't even know if that sounds selfish in itself, but it just gave me some perspective, I think.
Yeah.
And probably just some added perspective that I needed at the time.
Because we all have this, what's the word? Like the intellectual understanding of perspective. And then when you actually really live the experience of it, it's different. So I'd been very much on the mindset of you only live once and life is short, and like live your life to the fullest and all this stuff. And it was all a lovely idea until my 23-year-old friend died. And then I went back to work and he was never there again. And then I really understood it. So I don't think I totally get what you're saying. Like you can think, you can understand it, but when you're confronted with that real experience of what could have been, then you really understand it. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when you so you said you found the trust, and that was really helpful. And so how has been your journey since? Because I don't want to say I don't want to put that on you and say that you're healed now or you're over it, because I'm sure it's still an ongoing process. But you seem to have come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
How has that been, and kind of where are you at now with everything?
Yeah, so that was August when I went to see them. That really helped clear things. I mean, I think it did take a few weeks to deal with the concussion as well. Concussion's a weird thing that no one really knows how that affects you, but that, I mean, you know, that will give you physical reactions. You're very dizzy, you're very disorientated. Depression is a part of concussion as well. Lack of confidence. They are all actual symptoms of concussion. So once that lifted, that helped me. My confidence is something that has taken the longest to come back. I've embraced the scar completely. I actually quite like it. I quite like the story that's there. The fact that I have experienced something and I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually quite like the scar. But yeah, mentally it's taking me definitely longer than I expected it to. I do feel much better. I feel much, much more confident again. But I do have a real awareness of my own fragility that I didn't have before. And I don't know if that will ever go away now. Last year I did a wing walk and a loop the loop. You know, like every year I've done something to push this adrenaline urge that I have, you know. So I've always done quite a lot of extreme sports, and I don't know if I quite have the same desire to do that side of things yet again, because suddenly I'm like, God, if I can almost die lying down, it made me realize that actually I could almost die. And again, it was less about me dying and more about, like, all I could think was that how much it would affect my boyfriend and my family and all those things. It was just a horrible realization of, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then, yeah, just confidence is really the last thing that needs to come back. And I've got like this ability, you know, I'm a presenter. I've got the ability to communicate and all those things. That's all there, but it's just that sort of deeper, just self-doubt that comes in every now and then, which probably the only person who would ever realize it was there is my boyfriend. You know, I don't think anyone else would experience it, but he's the person obviously that sees me all the time. And now I'm just aware. I can hear myself saying some things, and I'm like, oh.
Well, it's how we use that fear. So it's interesting you said that about you used to be quite an adrenaline junkie. A friend of mine used to be a competitive speed skier in Hungary, and like competed in the Olympics and was just doing really well at it. And then he had an accident where he very nearly could have died. He was kind of going at like 80 kilometers an hour down a slope, and he kind of took off, and it could have all gone really badly. Luckily it didn't. But after that, he was like, he just could never ski again in the same way, because he would get to a certain speed and just be like, oh shit, this is what could happen. And I think it's okay. Like, there's people that trace adrenaline because they need it, or for whatever reason they like it, and that's how they like to live life. And I'm like, that's fine. But friends keep asking, like, do you want to do a skydive? And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, no, I don't think I do. Like, I don't think I need to jump out of a plane to, like, and I'm sure maybe I will, because maybe the curiosity will get the better of me, and like, it does sound incredible. But I'm like, I don't know that I need that adrenaline. But back to your point about, no one knows about this fear. There's two things that this fear can do. With my friend, I'm always flipping between just like fear of just dying and just being gone in like anything, because he died in a car crash really suddenly. So I'm driving in LA all the time, and there's oftentimes, especially when a couple of years ago, I was very nervous about anything on the road, and also when I'm driving with friends, I get very nervous. There's ongoing fear of dying in a car, but then there's also that reminder of like, you're here now, live hard. And then so I kind of flip between that, like, oh God, I'm going to die, to like, oh my God, you're here, make the most of it right now, or just make sure that everyone knows that you love them and that you say what you need to say and that you're doing the things that you want to be doing, and kind of having that. And so, yeah, I think it's it sucks when you're just in that like bit, but I don't think that's uncommon. I think there's some people who are completely clueless to death, which is kind of nice in a way, but also I think when you don't realize how precious and finite life is, then you could just be living just just not really living fully at all. But it's also nice to have that ignorance of just like, oh, I'm just going to live forever. That's kind of nice. But I do think a lot of people, especially those who have experienced loss or trauma or something, have that. And like you said, I'm sure that's a very normal reaction.
Do you know the irony though? Like I've always been someone who I still need to know the reason why this happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
That for some reason that's been something that I really have held on to, because I still, whether it is to help other people or something like that, I'm not sure. I don't want to sound like a martyr, but if any of these sorts of things can help someone else who may have had a facial injury, but whatever, if that's what it is, then great. But I was living, like I feel like that people sometimes, they say, don't they, that people go through life-death experiences because they maybe needed a bit of a kick up the butt. They maybe needed to live in the moment. They needed to be more mindful. They needed to do this and that. And so I was like, I have, I've lost loads of people. I've gone through those things, and I'm so like I love mindfulness. I've like all those things are really important to me. That all comes with part of the yoga, like I felt like I was like, what am I meant to have learned? Because if anything, I've learned the opposite, like I used to live in the moment and be like, and that's why I was jumping up planes and stuff, because I was like, get the bucket list done, jump out of planes, fly on the, do all those crazy things, go for a shark dive, do all of those things,
right? Because
it could be my last day. And so I was doing everything tenfold. And now
didn't you say that but didn't you say right before, oh, you're too afraid to do things now? Is that right?
Yeah. Now I feel like I'm almost going to do the not quite the opposite, but now I'm a little bit more like, oh, I don't know.
So interestingly, I mean, it could always be an infinite, and I don't always know that there is a reason. I don't know, but didn't you say that just right before you were speaking to your friend about needing to slow down and calm down?
Yeah.
And you could, like, I'm just completely making this up, but we can always make stories up to serve us in whichever way we want. But it could be that perhaps you were going to go and do something crazy that could or may have killed you. And so this is it's the universe saying, slow down on some stuff. So it's all in the way that
exactly what Emma said.
We shape the story. Yeah. So you can use it for that. But yeah.
I mean, that is what she said. She said, well, it was her that reminded me of the fact that we had literally just said, talks about the universe. She was like, I don't want to remind you, Al, but do you remember the conversation that we were having just before it hit you?
Yeah.
I was like, she was like, I just said to you, the universe will stop you from
just working yourself to the bone. Yeah.
You have to rest.
Yeah.
And I mean, I about literally 3 days before I'd been Googling shark dives. So you just never know, do you?
But I would love to hear now, just as we're wrapping up, like how sort of what you've been doing and sort of the community that you're building and the conversations that you've been having around this and sort of how it's impacting people.
Yeah, well, I hadn't planned on doing anything with my scar at all. I'd embraced it. I had a photo shoot deliberately, like saying, it's cool, we're good to have facial scars, it's not a problem at all. And then actually a company, a PR company contacted me and said, we've seen what you've gone through. We've got this new product, which is, it's called LPG Endomology. And it's like this little bizarre chomping machine. Which, it goes across the scar and it literally, those fish that
little sucky
Thailand, it's like that, but a big one. Yeah, and it feels like that, and it chomps my scar. And the idea is that it's a non-invasive treatment that rejuvenates your natural collagen. So I've had 6 of those so far, and they've offered me 12. And honestly, I would never. It's really only due to circumstance, and that I've been lucky enough to be offered this, that I've said yes. And it would feel very wrong of me to say no, thanks. That's great that you've offered to help me, but no, not interested. They've offered it, and for them, it's very rare for someone to go to them with a medical problem. Most people go because they want to get rid of their wrinkles, or they want to enhance these things. And Dr. Harler, she's like, actually, for us, it's really interesting to see how well these machines work on scars. So I've done 6 treatments, and that's completely evened the scar out. So where normally when you have your scar it can either be a raised scar or it's an indented scar, and mine was indented, which meant there was quite a big shadow. So really, no matter what, forevermore, I would have had a 5-inch quite dark shadow. Again, I actually don't care, that's fine, but they offered to try this, and it's evened it out completely. So I don't know how well you can see or not, because the lighting's terrible, but anyway, it's really evened it out. So so I think that's going to help. Amazing.
Get rid of it? Do they think that, like with 12, is that where the treatment goes? Or
I think so. I think that because the scar is very white, she said that what I could have at the end, in theory, the scar is shrinking. And it goes in that way. She said at the end, if there is still a white line, she can inject something that would just even out the skin pigmentation. But I don't know. I don't. I will almost miss it if completely, like it's crackers. There I was, like dealing with it, thinking all these horrific things, and as a presenter, I was assuming that everyone was going to stop, stop employing me for things, and although yes, it has, that has actually happened, with a few different things. I don't care so much now, and that's not such a big problem. And I miss it if it goes completely.
A little bit. So how has it been? How has your speaking about it been?
Good. So, this is the only podcast that I've done, and so that's good.
Do you
No, I've done a lot on Instagram, and I've had a lot of response on Instagram. I should have done a blog. What I have done is video a lot. So in theory, I will piece that together and sort of create one long video, maybe. I'm not really sure.
I would just say stop putting them out with your thoughts about what's going on, because that is a good idea to put together a big video. But I think sometimes then it becomes a project that you don't always get around to doing. But I think that even if just a snippet of a video from when you came out of hospital with now you can be reflecting back on how that was, that can really help people. So just don't be worried about it.
There have been quite a few people that have contacted me on Instagram and Facebook and things, and it's funny because what I realized was that it doesn't have to be a facial scar for people to have the same insecurities. I've had people who've contacted me who've had cesareans or surgery after cancer or anything. In fact, a very, very dear friend of mine, he had a big accident, and he had a huge scar on his leg, on his thigh. Still has. And I contacted him and said, this is bizarre, but do you, I felt hatred towards the scar for a little while, and I was like, do you have that too? So he and I ended up having a huge, conversation about this. And he was saying completely, but you'll learn to feel like it's part of you, and that is something that happened. But so I've had some really good conversations with people, but I think you're right. I think that if I was, in the same way that I needed to find it when it had happened to me,
I interviewed a guy, Matthew Christian, for the book that I'm working on recently. And we shared a video of him coming out to his mum. He filmed himself coming out to his mum. And people had commented on it about how, how convenient that his camera was there when he came out to his mum. This is all like fake or whatever. It was a completely authentic moment. But the reason that he had filmed it was because he's from Louisville in the Bible Belt of America. And as a gay man that goes to a Catholic school who's told that, being gay is a sin, he had no one to commute, to like learn, like talk to, and so he would go online, and it was the YouTube videos and hearing other people's stories that gave him the confidence to come out to his parents and just gave him some sense of like, I'm not alone in this. And so, I think that when we all start, we all need to, like, there's so much kind of contrived BS like online and just in social media and in the news, and just like real authentic stories of people just sharing what they're going through, especially in hindsight when they can kind of give that it's okay, you're going to be okay to other people. It's just powerful. It's really powerful.
I have got one magazine article coming out. There's a magazine in the UK called Real People. I think the BBC were potentially going to do something. They've got an online platform called BBC Digital, so hopefully I could do something on there. I think I probably should do. I think you're right.
Keep it going. Keep it going. Well, thank you so very much for joining me today. This has been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I love your podcast.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. It's kind of eclectic, and there's just always good, just always good wisdom. So thank you for being part of that now. And as a reminder to everyone listening, Alex has offered to give away a copy of one of her yoga DVDs. It will be the new one. I think we've just decided it'll be the new one.
Yoga Made Simple. It's for beginners.
Yoga Made Simple.
To beginners. Yeah.
Perfect. And we'll be closing that giveaway on January the 1st. So it'll be a nice little New Year's resolution for some of you. For everyone else, thank you so much for being part of the Uplifting Content world. If you're on Facebook, please remember to hit following and see first. We've also launched the new Uplifting Content supporter program, where I do private Facebook lives exclusively for you guys, and you get loads of other perks. So please check that out. And if you're listening to the podcast, subscribe and leave a review if you like us. Okay, I think that's all my rambling tirade for today. Have a lovely time at your party, Alex. And
thanks. Have a good day.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Lots of love.